My eyes volunteer as tribute. Welcome to Primary Technology, the show about the tech news that matters. Yes, today we're talking a lot about Apple Vision Pro. As you can see, if you're watching on YouTube, I am wearing it. We're going to talk about all the different reviews, my experience for the past week, and Jason's going to grill me with some questions. Also, other wild news like Disney invests $1.5 billion into Epic Games, one of Apple's rivals, a huge conglomerate for sports entertainment, and Google had some big announcements about their AI service. This episode is brought to you by HelloThere, an incredible app that lets you save your greeting cards to your phone. I'm one of your co-hosts, Stephen Robles, wearing the Apple Vision Pro, joined as always by my trusted co-host, Jason Aten. How's it going, Jason?
I'm good.
Jason's
disconcerted. Well, I'm just thinking of everything you just, it's like, were you reading like a teleprompter script inside there? Because I would never know.
You have no idea. You have no idea what I'm saying. But I have a special surprise for you, Jason. We have a special guest joining us. I'm here. My digital persona thinks I'm looking down permanently for some reason. I don't know why.
I mean, everyone on a Zoom call is looking down permanently, so that's fine. But
I guess
yours is not terrible. I'm not gonna lie, yours is not terrible. It kind of looks like a slightly more refined version. Like it looks like if you were playing a character in a Middle Ages trilogy and you were like the blacksmith. This is what I would expect to see if I showed up.
I always wanted to be the blacksmith. I'd be the blacksmith.
Yeah, there you go.
That's cool. That's cool. So we're recording with Riverside, and I actually tested the Riverside app, which is typically for iPad, and you can just download it on the Apple Vision Pro and literally record an entire podcast, and it does high-quality recording of your digital persona. And so I had posted a video last night to Threads and X with like the 16:9 widescreen version of it. And have you ever seen a different background? Is everybody's digital persona the same? It's just always the...
Ooh, I don't know. But that looks very much like you are in an office at Apple Park.
That's exactly what it seems like. I don't think you can change that. And you could change your glasses, but none of them look like my glasses. I messaged Warby Parker. They should partner with Apple to have like their entire frames, because that's what I wear. But anyway, this is my digital persona. All this is going to end in like 30 seconds because I can't wear this the whole time we record, and no one wants to see my digital persona. But there it is. It's there.
Yeah, if you are listening to this episode like a normal person would listen to a podcast, that's great. We appreciate you. It would be worth jumping over to youtube.com/@primarytech show. Is that? I don't even know.
That's right. You got it.
But there's a link somewhere. Steve will put.
It'll be.
It's worth it just for this section. So.
Yeah, and so I'm. Anyway, I'm going to stop all this. Yeah, because I'm going to have to cut all this out for the audio version because they can't see any of this. But you go over to YouTube. Even if you only listen to the audio version, just go over to YouTube and subscribe and see this like the first 30 seconds of the show, and then we'll start. But I'm going to take this off now. Now, I'm going to see if I can actually leave this call from Apple Vision Pro without totally messing the recording up.
You would think we would test these things ahead of time.
There we go.
No, we just do this live.
I think I did it. We're still recording. And I've left. Okay, I'm taking the Apple Vision Pro off. This is... Whew. Well, hopefully we did it for
back,
reviews.
Stephen.
I'm back in the real world. All right. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about Apple Vision Pro. Oh, I actually have put my real glasses on. This has been a weird transition. Every time I take Apple Vision Pro off, I'm like, why can't I see? Oh, right. I wear glasses in real life. And then I have to go back to doing that. We have so much to talk about. Real quick, I want to give 2 5-star review shout-outs. Squarefish, he says, we have an amazing tech podcast by Jason Aten and the other guy. I just want you to know. That's how
I feel bad, though, for you because he mentioned me twice in that shout-out, and he didn't mention you at all. Because I am both Jason Aten and I am the other guy.
Fair enough. He did give a winky face, so it seems like he knew what he was doing. But in case you were wondering, we had a joke last episode where it'd be great if you could email the other guy at primarytech.fm.
Yep.
That might be working right now. I'm just throwing that out there. And also, War Fujin gave us a 5-star review. So thank you guys. Listen, here's what we want to do. We want to get to 100 5-star reviews like this week. And listen, there are many of you listening right now. And if you all did it, it would just flood the Apple Podcast app, and we would be well above 100. I think it would be way more. So go in there and let us know what notes app you use. If you're not sure what to write, which is sometimes the hardest part about leaving a review, just tell us what notes app you use on your iPhone.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. Or
did you see, I don't mean to sidetrack us too far, but
please.
I should have, I'll find it. and I'll send it to you later so we can. But did you see somebody did like an analysis of the reviews on Apple Podcasts? And it was something along the lines of like, if you have more than 5 reviews, you're in like the top 95% of podcasts or something. I don't remember the exact numbers. But if we were to get to 100, we would be like, there are very few podcasts other than like the true crime ones. And this is, believe it or not a true crime podcast. Although Stephen Robles with his Apple Vision Pro on and his virtual persona in the same podcast recording at the same time is a crime.
It is a crime against humanity. But no, we are not technically.
Yeah, but that was it was really interesting to just see that sort of analysis of the breakdown.
Yeah, it was on Threads. I'll try to find it for the show notes, but it was interesting. All right. I've had Apple Vision Pro for a week. I take it you have not secretly bought one in the last week, have you?
I have not secretly or publicly bought one. I have not bought one.
So here's the thing. I'm going to start off by saying this. I personally feel slight Apple Vision Pro coverage fatigue. I'm curious if our listeners and viewers feel the same way. I feel like my last 3 YouTube videos reflect this, that there's some fatigue on it. Like, unless you're MKBHD or Cleo Abram or iJustine, it seems like, okay, we've now seen Apple Vision Pro on the subway. We've seen it on a plane. We've seen it everywhere. And I also think, it's not available internationally. This is U.S. only, except for those who have, like, smuggled it over, like Mike Hurley from 9 to 5 and Federico Viticci.
Yep.
But I don't know. I feel like there is some fatigue, not just eye fatigue, which we'll talk about, but just coverage fatigue. But I know people want to hear. I know people want to hear the experience, and so I'll just give a brief journey through my last week experience, and then Jason can grill me. And then I also have like a bunch of little nitpick things which I've not heard mentioned other places, and so I'll mention that. So I got it on Friday, and I was in a rush to make content because that's what you do, right? You like post videos about it. I did a live stream unboxing. I met my UPS guy in a shady location. He gave it to me early.
He helped you try it on, made sure everything fit okay, swapped out
I gave him a demo in the truck.
Swapped. Yeah. That's a weird sentence, but okay, moving on.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I feel like, I didn't want to put him on blast because a couple people, I deleted my X post because a couple people were like, you're going to get that dude fired. And I'm like, I don't know how you would know who this is. I didn't show any truck. But anyway, thanks to him, not that he'll ever hear this or see this, but thanks to him for getting it to me early. I rushed to try to make some content. And in that process, I did not really get to spend time just like using it. I didn't get an in-store demo. It was delivered. I do think I understand the value of the demo. Like, if you are curious about this device or considering buying it, the in-store demo is probably necessary, because I didn't really feel like why this thing existed until 3 days in, because I just didn't get to sit with it for several hours until probably like Saturday and Sunday. I let other people try it. My friends Nate and Jacob, they tried it Friday night. I brought it over to dinner, and they played around with it. I posted their reactions, and my friends and family. And at first I was like, this is cool. It feels a lot like a VR device. I used a Quest 2. It seems kind of like that. And it wasn't until I experienced Apple's first-party experiences, meaning like they have their adventure Highliner video. They have a Wild Things like Rhinoceros video, the Alicia Keys rehearsal room. Once I experienced those, it changed my mind. Like, I realized these kinds of experiences have only and are only possible right now in this singular device. The fidelity of the screens, the quality of the immersion, all of that together, like, it does create a visceral and pretty amazing experience in those moments. And I was like, okay, this is really, really cool. I think we've talked a lot about the Apple Watch analogy, and I think with other first-run Apple products, when they've entered a new product category, Apple is the one that has like the best experiences, or Apple basically paves the way to show developers and others like, here's what you use it for. And I think that was my mistake. In my first day, I really tried to just download third-party apps because I wanted to do a video about like, here are the best third-party apps for Apple Vision Pro. And I realized that wouldn't be a good video because there's not a ton out there. Like, there's some great third-party apps, like the Shortcut Buttons app. I tried that, but because of the limitations of the platform, it's a little buggy. Like, my Shortcut Buttons where you can place it in like augmented reality space, they don't stay there. And every time you run one of those buttons, even if you have the Shortcuts application closed, it has to reopen, like where you're looking in that button. And just weird bugs like that, the third-party app experience, not because of the developers, but just limitations of the platform. A lot of developers never had this hardware in hand to actually test their app. Finn Voorhees, who we talked about last week, who developed the Shortcuts Buttons app, it was the first time he ever saw that app running on a Vision Pro was when I posted my video. And so that just shows like these developers are basically developing without any reference. They're just using a simulator and Xcode. And so the third-party app story, I think, will grow over time, but that's why the Apple first-party experiences are really the ones that make you feel what this thing is for, what it can do, and it's cool. And I've worked a lot in Apple Vision Pro. Like I edited a whole video in Final Cut yesterday because it was a video about Apple Vision Pro, and I kept needing to screen record, and so I kept doing that, and that was cool. And I watched a movie in it. That's cool. And I keep getting this question, Jason. I don't know if you were going to ask this, but like people are like, should I buy it? Is it worth it? I'm like, that's a very, very difficult question. The answer is probably no right now.
Right.
Like unless you already had like $4,000 that you were going to spend on creating a massive home theater setup in your house in a dedicated room, and this might be and you were going to watch alone every time, like for that one particular person, maybe it's worth it to get this because you can watch 3D movies and the viewing experience is incredible. And if you wear AirPods Pro 2, which kind of a trade-off, like the best sound experience is with AirPods Pro 2, but then you have to have something in your ear. So it's a lot of trade-offs. It's a hard question to answer. So I don't know. Jason, what are some questions you have? Because I'm not sure where to go from here.
I have questions. Well, first of all, as I was listening to you, you had mentioned the Shortcuts app, the Shortcuts Buttons app from Finn Voorhees, which I actually included as you have to download. I wrote seven apps you should download. That was one of them because it seems really cool. And you mentioned it's a little bit buggy, and I don't think that that's the fault necessarily of the app. But it does occur to me that one of the bugs of that app is you have to be wearing a Vision Pro to trigger your shortcut buttons, right? And don't you have like actual shortcut buttons in your house? Like, aren't there the things you can like tap a shortcut button, like around your house? Like, so it does seem like, I mean, it is really cool that you can like do this with a Vision Pro on, but also there are physical manifestations of doing the same things. And this is no shade to Finn for creating an app. Like, I think it's a great thing to put into the app. Or into the Vision Pro. It's just you have to actually be wearing a Vision Pro for any of that stuff to be useful to you. It's like, okay. I have been thinking about this a lot. So I don't have one right now. I have used one, but it's been 6 or 7 months since I've used it. So my impression of it is limited by the fact that it was a very on-the-rails demo and also time. Like, it's been a while. Right. And so my only impression of it was like, wow, this thing is amazing. But certainly there were limitations. I have started to think of this because really it feels like there are 3 people that this is for. I don't mean like literally only 1, 2, 3 people. 3 types of people that this is for. One you described is like people who really like high quality entertainment and have a lot of money. Okay. But that is a completely different type of device than you would buy an iPad or a Mac. Like, this is not a competitor to a Mac in any real way. This is not a thing you would buy instead of a Mac. And so I started thinking of it. It's like, it's almost like this is the Mac Pro, because the Mac Pro is designed for very, very, very high end use cases and then nerds, right? There are nerds who care about the Mac Pro because it's like the best, supposed to be the best Mac that although that's debatable, the best Mac that you can get. But the best Mac you can get is not designed for the average person, right? The MacBook Air is designed for the average person. The Apple Vision Pro, I think, and the more I've started to like listen to what Apple is saying, I think this is a device that will come into its own eventually. But if it's going to get there, it's going to be an enterprise device, right? Apple announced in their beta in the next beta that they're going to include mobile device management and stuff. A lot of the apps that exist right now are healthcare, architect, modeling, that kind of thing. Like, there are other enterprise software like Box, which is interesting. Like, Box is essentially a Dropbox competitor. Like, do you need that in Vision Pro? I guess you need your files, but do I need like a spatial computing version? I don't know. But I think it's, when people have asked me, should I get one? I'm like, I don't even need to have one on right now to be like, it is very cool. Do you have $4,000 to light on fire? Do you have an OLED television? And if the answer to the first question is no, and the second question is yes, then you definitely should not get a Vision Pro.
Yes, I agree. I also feel like Apple keeps using the term spatial computing, and in my use in the last week, I can't do computing on this thing. Like when I think of computing, I'm thinking of multiple windows. I'm usually multitasking. Maybe I'm editing a video, just sending emails. And all of those tasks, I will go back to my Mac and at the most screen mirror into Apple Vision Pro, but I would never do those things directly in Apple Vision Pro. I did pair a Magic Keyboard directly to it so I could actually type with a normal keyboard. And even then, like the virtual keyboard will pop up when you tap a text field. So now you have something obscuring your view and you already had a physical keyboard. And there's no setting to just turn off the virtual keyboard when a Bluetooth one is connected. And window management, while it's cool to be able to place windows in augmented reality space, it is not as precise nor as easy as on a Mac. You can't command tab. Command tab to switch apps on a Mac, I do without looking. I don't look down ever to do command tab. It's just muscle memory.
Right.
Or, any of those. And to close a window, command W. And none of those options are really available in Apple Vision Pro. You literally have to look at the thing you want to interact with, tap in order to interact with it, and then maybe drag it around, maybe do something else. When I think of computing, it requires a lot of windows, and that's something Apple Vision Pro is not great at. Now, mirroring your Mac into Apple Vision Pro is really cool, and you can even do multiple desktops. I had a question on social media, you can do mission control. You can have multiple desktops on your Mac mirrored in Apple Vision Pro and swipe with 4 fingers on the trackpad, and all that's cool. But I don't see it spatial computing just yet. And I want to share a couple experiences that I've seen online recently. One is T-Pain. I don't know if you saw this, Jason.
I did see this.
But T-Pain is I don't want to be a part of reality anymore. It's weak. Reality is weak. Everything's in Apple Vision Pro now.
He had a little bit stronger words to say about it, but yes.
Yeah, it's a G-rated show. You can read the captions, if you're on YouTube. But T-Pain's riding around with it. Then David Letterman last night posted a video of himself trying it, which is amazing. And, I don't know if you saw this video, but the first 7/8 of the video is him trying to set it up. And you could visibly see him trying to tap each dot while you're setting up Apple Vision Pro rather than just looking and tapping. And the guy next to him was like, you don't have to do that. You can just, hold your finger. He's like, yeah, whatever. And he tries to tap each dot. It was amazing. But at the very end of the video, he experienced something, probably an immersive video, and freaked out about it. He was like, wow, this is amazing. And then you also see videos of, I forget his name, but he was on the subway with Apple Vision Pro working, and that video went viral. A bunch of people stole it and didn't give him credit or whatever. And any of those scenarios, which I actually saw, I got a private message from someone, I won't mention their name, but they tried using it on a train. And they said even in travel mode, which is something you need to put Apple Vision Pro if you're on a plane or a train, this way the windows don't just fly away from you because Apple Vision Pro will recognize motion and make it he said even in travel mode, everything was flying away. He tried pulling up a movie, and when the train started moving, even in travel mode, it flew away. And probably a bug, but still, I don't know. I'm gonna say some other. Well, why don't you ask me another question? Then I'm gonna say some.
I think Casey Neistat had the same experience on the subway. Right? I don't know if you saw his video. There was a. Yes. Did you catch? There was another post where somebody ranked the top Vision Pro reviews on YouTube by views, and it was the point of it was Marquez has the top 3, and then it was Casey's, and then it was Joanna Stern's. And Casey's was good, and it was just I'll get to my thoughts about the YouTube part of it in a second. But and he so you can see him on a one wheel.
He's riding a scooter.
Yeah, and then he gets on the subway, and he's like, the problem is you put a window here, and then you get on the subway and you move, and it just flies away from you, which seems slightly problematic because you might have needed that window, or you wouldn't have put it there. But what I wanted to say is, I think this should be intuitive to people, but I think the expectation was a lot higher. If you can't do your work on an iPad, you will not really be able to do anything more on a Vision Pro. You can mirror your Mac into it. I understand that. And I know that that is treated as like a first class experience, but meaning a first party, like it isn't like it is not a watered down experience, but it is not the way it is meant to be used.
Right.
Everything about Vision OS is simply iPad OS in spatial orientations. And so
Right.
if you're thinking, could I do my job with this thing? If your job involves more than what you could do well on an iPad, the answer is probably going to be no. Unless there are
Right.
very specific apps designed for your job. And if that's the case, that's totally different. But that is not most people, right? And so it is interesting that the limitations of this, of this platform is really the same as what people have been complaining about on the iPad for years. Although it is a slightly more generous window management system than iPad OS, but really the apps are still confined in many of the same ways.
Yes, and like I also watched Canupsi's video, which he's a creator in Toronto. He wore it for 24 whole hours. Okay, and I've seen a couple other people now. Like basically, it's a marathon. Like who can wear Vision Pro the longest? I saw somebody posted 72 hours. I don't know if you should do that. But there's a scene where he goes to like the grocery store, and in order to walk around the grocery store with your window of your grocery list, you have to pinch and hold the bar at the bottom of the window and carry it with you. Otherwise, if you move, it stays in the aisle that you left it because it's spatial computing.
Hang on, honey. I have to go back to the cereal section to find out what we have to get next. Hang on, I'll be right back.
Exactly. And like there's been a couple of videos on social media where people place windows all around their home, very curated like they'll have their Mac display mirrored over their desk. They'll have the Apple TV app right in, like where their TV is. They'll have the Crouton app with timers in the kitchen, and they walk around the house. And I saw a bunch of people were like, "Oh, now I get it. This is Apple Vision Pro." And it's like, yes, but also if you restart your device, all that stuff resets. So it's not like permanent. It's not like every time like you disconnect the battery and reconnect it, all those windows are exactly where you place them. It resets every time. And so I don't know, just that idea of spatial computing. Also, I'm going to say a couple other quick things because I want to get these out before I forget. Last week, we talked about the vignetting around the eyes. 100% is something that is there. Like, because your eyes are shaped the way they are and screens are square or rectangle, there's a vignette around your vision. Like, you have peripheral vision. The Apple Vision Pro screens do not. There have been a couple of people online that have taken off the light seal. So they actually will take this cushion off and just, I guess, stick their eyeballs right in the lenses. And they're like, yeah, you get a wider field of view, but also you might be burning your retinas. I don't know. And it's also very uncomfortable because they don't have a cushion on your face. So that vignetting is real. Like even in a fully immersive environment, if it's a dark environment, you don't notice it as much because it blends into the environment you're in. But it's definitely there, like when you're looking through it. Safari, not a great experience. Like, I'll just be honest. I also, every time I opened Safari, because web pages are usually white, very bright, I felt like my eyes just like were in shock. And so if you use Safari and Apple Vision Pro, I highly recommend and needed to download the extension, which I'm glad it's there, Noir, Noir, which is a Safari extension. You can run it on all your devices, but it basically forces dark mode on every website. That was absolutely necessary. So this way, when I open Safari, it didn't burn my eyes. Sometimes it still takes a second to kick in, so it'll be like, flash of white, and then it'll go dark. But even that is better. Like, I just close my eyes for a second. The Juno YouTube app is a necessity if you want to watch YouTube videos. This was, I think, also by Finn Voorhees, another app that
Christian
he made.
Seelig, the guy who did
Christian
Apollo.
Seelig.
Yep, who
That's
did
right.
Apollo. Yep.
Who did the Reddit app Apollo. Juno, excellent app. You definitely need it. I did YouTube in Safari for a few minutes. Super annoying. The targets are too small. And eye tracking, while incredible most of the time, sometimes just doesn't work very well. And I'll have to look like slightly below the target. And maybe that's a result of my face or the thing moving. I don't know. But the Juno app is definitely necessary for YouTube. And I also got the developer strap just to try it.
I don't even know what
day
that
one,
is.
You didn't see that?
I don't think so.
So day one of the videos I thought I would make would be like, can I plug a bunch of USB-C accessories into the battery pack and will they work? Because that was a huge video I did with the iPhone 15. So I plugged an external SSD right here. I plugged in a USB microphone. I plugged in a USB keyboard. None of it works. Nothing works. You can't plug anything into this battery except for power. So then Apple announced the $300 developer strap. Okay. And the developer strap, it replaces the right strap on it. And if you didn't say, I mean, this is a, I need to pull up the picture of it because you have to see it, and you also have to see the ejector tool that comes with it, which is just amazing. Oh, here it is. So let me share my screen. You should watch this on YouTube. I'm just saying, this was the picture I took. So this is the developer strap, and you'll see sticking out of the back is actually a USB-C port. So it gives you a USB-C port direct into Apple Vision Pro, and it's really only needed to connect directly to your Mac. This way you can send builds of your app to Apple Vision Pro over a wired connection rather than wireless. And so I was like, wait, a USB-C port? That thing might do stuff that the battery doesn't do. So I tried to plug in all the same things to that USB-C port, including a hub, including an SSD, HDMI output. None of it works. It is literally for nothing but connecting to your Mac and sending app builds or screen recording or taking screenshots on your Mac, which MKBHD actually mentioned in one of his videos. He tried it. It's a little laggy. Like, it's not as a smooth frame rate wise as just screen recording directly on device, which you can do in the control center of Apple Vision Pro. So I immediately returned it, and I don't have it anymore. Otherwise, I'll show you. Because you can't do anything with it. You can't do anything with it.
Also, what are you going to do? Put that thing on your head with that hub attached to it? You just like set that thing on your shoulder?
I should have taken a picture of that, because I did.
Oh.
Now, I will say, this was, again, another like funny thing, but we actually have Lightning Pro Max Ultra in the developer strap. And so this is what you
I did see this photo. Okay, I did not realize what it was, but I did see this photo that you posted.
Yeah, so this big one is the developer strap connector that goes into Apple Vision Pro. And this is the ejector tool, this like silver pill thing, which the most over-designed, over-engineered. I love it. It's amazing.
Do you think that they make those at San Quentin? Because that looks like something you'd find in a prison. I'm just
Listen,
that's a shank.
It's etched. Apple Vision Pro is etched on this thing. On the very end, it actually is etched. Apple Vision Pro, Apple icon.
That's
then
amazing.
The words Vision Pro. But anyway, it was very nerve-wracking taking the strap out and putting it back in. I was afraid I was going to mess something up. But this is Lightning Extreme, the connector. And then the developer strap. But anyway, it doesn't do anything, so I returned it. And yeah, again, back to the spatial computing idea. If you can't connect an external SSD or a USB microphone or do pretty much anything you would do with a Mac, like USB-C port except for charge, I find the computing side of the argument a little difficult. But
okay, I have three questions.
Yes, please.
You talked about the keyboard thing. Meaning that it pops up a virtual keyboard when you're trying to use your real keyboard, and that's annoying because it ends up. Do you feel like that's a bug type thing? Like that, those are the types of things that will eventually get worked out, or do you just think that they don't envision that people will actually use keyboards very often?
I don't. I imagine it's a bug, or at most will be a setting in the future. I don't know how far in the future, like Apple Vision 1.5, or is it 2.0, but. I think eventually it has to be a toggle where if Bluetooth device is connected, don't show the keyboard. I mean, iPad does that. If you have a Bluetooth keyboard connected, your iPad, when you tap on a text field, the keyboard doesn't show up.
Right.
So I feel like that's already in Apple's UI language. They just need to bring it to Apple Vision Pro.
Okay. And then do you think that because it doesn't do that if you are screen mirroring your Mac, right?
It doesn't do it when you're clicking in the Mac, but if you have a visionOS app off to the side of your Mac mirrored screen, like Juno or Safari, and you tap, like you look and tap in the text field, it will bring up the virtual keyboard again. Supposedly, Universal Control should allow you to use your Mac mouse and keyboard in visionOS apps if you have your Mac mirror being screened. I personally have not been able to get that to work ever. Like, I tried very much to, like, bring the mouse all the way to the edge of the screen, like you would with Universal Control from a Mac to an iPad. You bring it all the way to the edge, and I try to get it over to the visionOS app, and it never, like, pops over. So I'm not sure. That's probably another bug, but I just haven't been able to get it to work. So
okay, and then, so I'm assuming it has iCloud backup because you just mentioned you can't connect a hard, so you can't do Time Machine. So like, does it do like the same iPad, iPhone, iCloud backup? Because in theory, you might have more content-y type things besides just your like photo library on a Vision Pro if you were actually doing work. How does that get? How do you just iCloud backup? Is that your only option?
It's all iCloud. That was actually when I asked on social media, and then I found the Apple support article and answered my own question. But Apple says you can actually leave the battery connected 24/7, even when you're not using Apple Vision Pro, because it will sync in the background. It'll do an iCloud backup. It will sync your photos, sync your messages. And so it does sync. You can do an iCloud backup. That was another weird part of the setup on Friday when I received it. In the setup process, it asked, do you want to restore from iCloud backup? And I was like, what iCloud backup? This is a brand new device. And I thought
you just turn it on and all of your little iPhone apps are just going to be like little slivers right in your middle of your view. That's it. That's all you get.
Well, I thought maybe because it's so iPad based that it would pull from an iPad backup and just install all the compatible apps that I have in my iPad iCloud backup, but that was not the case. I went restore from iCloud backup and it just showed me nothing. Like there were no iCloud backups. But it means there will probably be iCloud backups now that I've left it plugged in overnight and things like that. Okay. Also, a funny, like to show how tied this is to iPad OS, if you go into the Shortcuts app, which is a compatible running app, meaning it's in like this folder, which you can't move any icons, which is also annoying. Like you can't rearrange your home screen.
That's a deal breaker.
It's kind of annoying. But anyway, if you run Shortcuts, you can create device automations. You can create personal automations in the Shortcuts app on Apple Vision Pro. And if you do create something like when plugged into charge, speak text, thank you, or whatever, it says like iPad automation, like create iPad automation. And so Apple Vision Pro, in those scenarios, like in Shortcuts automations, it really thinks it's an iPad. Like it literally has the words iPad. So
do you think that's because it's running the iPad app? So like, how would it know different? Because it's literally running the iPad app.
Probably because also like the Riverside app, it thinks it's an iPad that's running. So yeah, probably that, and maybe maybe that'll get fixed. I don't know if there'll ever be a native Shortcuts app, because I will tell you, I tried to build some shortcuts in Apple Vision Pro. Not something you want to do. Not a good experience.
Okay.
So
my last question for you, and then I want to talk about my thoughts about the reviews.
Yes, please.
But my last question for you is, if you were not someone who made videos for YouTube and you knew everything that you knew now, would you have bought this?
If I was not making videos for YouTube, no.
Okay.
And I might, if I had bought it, I might have returned it.
Okay.
Strictly because, it's sitting on my desk right now where it's been all week. I've picked it up to use it when I'm making a video about it. And I watched a movie in it, and that was really cool. But if anyone has kind of followed my content for a while, I have good movie setups around the house. Like I have a 7.1 Dolby Atmos. It's not a fancy TV. It's not an OLED, but I kind of would like to watch it in there because I don't have to have something on my face or in my ears.
Right,
I can just sit there and enjoy it. And I also feel awkward. Like I was sitting in bed using it, and I forgot what my wife was doing, but she walked in to the bedroom, and I look over with the headset on, I have it. And she was like, wow, did not expect that. And like, it's just not a good feeling. It's not a good feeling when someone, and there were a couple times where I was working here in the office, and like my daughter knocked on the door and opened it, and I looked over with the headset on, She's like, wow. And all of those moments, it's like, this is weird. It feels weird. Eventually it might not be weird. Maybe AirPods, like the first time you were wearing AirPods and like you were talking to someone in a conversation and they felt like this person's not even listening to me because I have AirPods in, which I still feel that way sometimes in the grocery store. Like I'll still take them out instead of just going into transparency mode because I want, like, it's a visual cue. I want the other person to know if you say something to me, I'm actually listening. I'm not just in my own world. And that's just AirPods.
Yeah, see, I'm the opposite. I leave the AirPods in because I'm just hoping they'll stop talking to me.
Well, maybe you should get an Apple Vision Pro because it would be the ultimate repellent of, well, it'll attract some questions.
Yeah,
but then
I
other
don't want to
conversations.
talk about it to people. If I walked to the grocery store, that thing, I would never get out of the grocery store.
But at home with my own family, it feels weird. Like it feels weird to either be walked in on wearing it or to like BRB, I'm going to enter a spatial computing space for a minute and I'll get back to you. It's weird. And I'm
so
not
it would
like
really be a thing you would only use in your office where you also have a Mac Studio and a MacBook Pro and an iPad and an iPhone and a studio display. It's like, maybe there's...
Now, the one other kind of person that might really benefit from this is I totally get if you're a frequent traveler, I completely get why this would be a huge benefit. Every plane, train, if you're staying in a lot of hotels because you travel often, those use cases, this is going to be amazing because I like the idea of no one's shoulder surfing me. No one's going to see what I'm doing if I'm working. And movie experience is going to be the best on this on a plane and in a hotel room. You know, typically if I'm in a hotel room by myself, I'll pull up my iPad Pro because it was the best screen I had, and I would watch it on that, even if it was a smaller screen than the TV in the room, because I know that TV is going to be a pain in the neck to try and get my content on it. This is going to be the best experience with that. So that's another use case, I think. But as far as like personal spatial computing, I don't know. I'm not sure where it's going to go.
So I have a theory about the reviews.
Okay.
Well, first of all, I think in retrospect, some of them were very well done, but mostly useless. They were very good as PR pieces for Apple. Now, I'm not questioning the integrity of anybody who made them. I'm not suggesting that in any way. Like, especially the early batch when you had the, Marquez, Joanna Stern, The
Brian
Verge. Like, I'm not questioning their integrity in any way. They're all professionals, but they did exactly what Apple was hoping, which was explain the process, talk about this thing, normalize it. The Vision Pro is really the first Apple product that was launched in the peak YouTube era, right? Like, I mean, the Apple Watch, sure, YouTube was a thing, but it wasn't the thing that it is today, right? And there was no TikTok, really, to speak of in, 2015 or whatever. When the iPhone came out, YouTube was 2 years old, and, I mean, there wasn't even a native YouTube app, but Apple built YouTube into the iPhone, right? Like they did. Apple built the YouTube app.
Pre-installed.
Wasn't it even called YouTube, or was it just called like video? I don't remember. But anyway,
it was YouTube, I think.
But there was but they didn't use the YouTube logo. That was it. It was just like a television.
Right. It was their own.
Anyway, but I think that
TV.
there was no one who was like, what if we take an iPhone underwater, or what if we take an iPhone to the moon, or what if I carry an iPhone around all day long? Well, of course you're going to carry an iPhone around all day long. That's the entire point of having an iPhone. So there was not that sort of a thing. And we're at the point now where these products, the Apple Watch, I mean, we did see a little bit of it. Like Joanna Stern went to the island with the SOS feature on the phone or whatever, but we don't see like that same kind of a thing as what people are trying to do with this, because this is novel and it's weird. And what I'm trying to say is most of the YouTube reviews were useless because no one cares about telling the average person, here's what it is that you would do with this. It's just, here's the most absurd thing. It's the Mr. Beastification of it all, right? Here's the most absurd thing I could think of doing with this weird piece of technology that I look super bizarre wearing, because you will just watch me do that, but you will not learn anything about what to do. Now, I do like the video you did of like, I let normal people use this. Like that was useful, I think, for people. I think that I still stand by like my assessment that Marquez's and Joanna's and Nilai's early reviews were very good at explaining the experience, but they all intentionally avoided the question of should anyone buy this. Like they will tell you, I intentionally avoided this question, and it makes me think that no one is making YouTube videos for normal people. They're just making YouTube videos for people who are fans of technology, and I feel like there's a huge space there. I shouldn't say that. I will argue that Joanna Stern from the Wall Street Journal probably does the best job of anyone of trying to make the reviews for the normal person. So I don't know. And I don't think that's necessarily everyone's fault. I think that's just what YouTube is.
That's an interesting Yeah, I get that.
Did I just make you question all of your career choices? I'm really sorry. That's not what I was trying to do.
No. Now I'm like, should I make a video? Well, if I made a video, I feel like where the title was, should you buy Apple Vision Pro? I think in this moment, it's not going to get views. I think because there's probably a large portion of just non-techie people that don't care that this is another headset like the Quest 3 that maybe because it's Apple, there's a slight increase in interest that maybe this is something, but I just think it's not there yet. And one of the other videos I appreciated was Cleo Abram, who does the Huge If True YouTube channel. And she actually, of course, went to like MKBHD studio and they talked about it. And most of the conversation is really aspirational. Like this is, and I've heard several creators say this is the worst headset Apple will ever make. And like, okay, yeah. I feel like you could also say that about the iPhone 15 Pro. Like, this is the worst iPhone Apple is going to make into the future.
Right.
There's probably a good chance of that.
I really hope that's true. Yeah. I mean, it's not a guarantee, but let's hope it's true.
Right. And so I feel like, yeah, I get that sentiment, and it's probably accurate, but it lends itself more to the aspirational nature of this device that one day, I totally get it. The Alicia Keys rehearsal room experience, when you watch it in Apple Vision Pro, it is astounding how real it feels and how almost in the room it feels, like right there. The Highliner video, when you watch that, there's a shot of her face close up, and you could see it in my reactions video. My friend Jacob was like, I feel like I could touch her face right now. Like it is that real. That's incredible. The technology has to advance so far for you to be able to FaceTime someone and have that same visceral reaction, like this person is in the room with me. And that's what Cleo Abram and MKBHD were kind of getting at, is like one day, maybe it's 10 years, maybe it's longer, where we'll get there, where either digital persona or other technology will be that it can feel like you're in the room with a person. Spatial video, it's not there yet, but maybe you'll be able to capture it one day on your iPhone or on whatever glasses and then relive a memory as though you were there. Yeah, that's a compelling experience. That's all the sci-fi experiences. Yep. Like I remember in Minority Report, everybody talks about Tom Cruise waving his hands around, but there's also a scene in Minority Report where people go to like enter themselves into VR and have experiences. Yeah. And like that's like where it's like the seedy underbelly of the Minority Report world, but that's where people will spend the money because it's such a real experience. And so yes, aspirationally, I could definitely see that in the future, but for right now, I don't know if computing is the thing. It might be immersive experiences. And I thought about making this video. I don't know if I will. But I would title, if I was going to review the Apple Vision Pro in like a traditional YouTube video, I would say Apple Vision Pro, the ultimate consumption device. Like when the iPad came out, and even today, so many people argue that it is a consumption-first device, which I disagree because I edit this podcast and all my podcasts on iPad and Apple Pencil, and it has become a content creation device for me personally. It's not for everyone. I totally get it, but I think there are some artists, there's some fields like the medical field that might use it for charts and tests and all that, where the iPad has use cases to be a creation device. Right now, as it stands, I do not see the Apple Vision Pro as a creation device in any way. I don't see myself creating anything on it. The most I can do is mirror my Mac screen, which again, I'm creating on my Mac. I'm just seeing it in Apple Vision Pro. But when it comes to consumption, this is the best device to consume content made for it. I don't know if it's the best way to consume just a regular 2D movie. If you have an OLED TV and you have a 7.1 home theater system, a whole room set up for that, that still might be better to consume that kind of content. But the immersive 3D content, like this is the ultimate consumption device for that, and it's great at it. Like the fidelity of the screens, iFixit did a tear down, and they talked about, you know, every pixel of the Apple Vision Pro is basically like you can fit, I think, 50 of those in one iPhone pixel, like crazy things. And
Yep.
it's amazing. Like the fidelity of the screens, like it is amazing. But I don't, for creation, just not yet. Just not yet. That's what I think.
That's an interesting thing because you're right. So the old adage used to be that your iPhone is the ultimate communication device, the iPad is the ultimate consumption device, and the Mac is the ultimate creation device. And I think that there are certainly edge cases where that's not true. But I was just going to, when you were saying that, like you talked about the iPad being a great, you're still not recording this podcast on your iPad. That's like, so it's still not fully a creation device. Yes, it has niche areas where it's good. You know, I could write. I mean, I could do almost all of my job on the iPad, but it's still just not as good at it as my Mac is, right? And it's faster. This is sort of trying to be all of those things, right? Because certainly Apple wants it to be a communication device, or they would not have done. They needed it to be capable of doing that. That's the whole reason the Personas thing exists, right? And and it's clearly right now very good at consumption. If again you're willing to spend that kind of money, because an iPad goes on an airplane pretty easily and no one looks at you very weirdly when you're wearing it. So yeah, I think it's interesting to see where it will sort of end up.
For sure. And can I just say, I just paused this iFixit teardown video, and 4 of the 5 videos that are recommended by YouTube have MKBHD's face in it.
Yes.
If you're wondering.
That's because right now, YouTube thinks that the only thing Steven wants to do is watch MKB talk about the Vision Pro. And again, he is probably the best at simply talking about stuff like this in a very relatable and very understandable way. But I still don't think that you mentioned this a minute ago, that the average person is probably, you said, would it get views, which is the worst question we always have to ask ourselves, because when I'm writing an article, I have to think like, will anyone read this? And if no one will read it, then why am I going to write it? The problem is like YouTube as the way that the reason that there are people doing all these weird things with these is because people will watch them, but none of them are going to buy them unless they want to make more YouTube videos about doing weird things with it. And none of the people who are making some of those videos, I just sort of realized with this platform launch, meaning the Vision Pro, that YouTube isn't really set up, and the people making those videos are not really set up for answering those questions for like the average person. Most of these are not reviews; they're stunts, and that's good. Like, it's entertainment. It's like I enjoyed watching a lot of them, but most of them are not reviews. They're just, I'll say it again, stunts, and that's fine. But I really wish that there were people who were. So keep making reviews, Steven. You're very, very good at that.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean that you're inspiring me now. Well, and I'm honestly like Quinn Nelson, who's the Snazzy Labs YouTube channel. He was like, I'm going to spend a month with this thing before I dare say something is a review. Yeah. And for me, I think that's what I'm going to do. Like, I'm kind of done with Vision Pro videos at the moment. I'm going to do some other things that no one's probably going to watch because the MKBHD's Vision Pro videos are just flooding YouTube. But I need to see, a month into owning this device, how often do I pick it up if I'm not just trying to make videos about it? And I think that will be telling as to the actual long-term review. All right, we have so much other news to get to. Five quick things. This thing needs Find My. It needs a U1 chip. This is an expensive device. Give me precision Find My for Apple Vision Pro. Number 2, having an itch, terrible in Apple Vision Pro. Can't scratch it. I've so often have had itch like right above my eyes because you also have something pressing on your face the whole time you're using it. Can't scratch the itch unless you're going to take it off. And like if I'm watching a movie, I don't want to deal with taking it off, putting it back on, and unlocking it. So I'll just suffer through the itch and then just leave it alone. Drinking water. This is my water container, and there's no straw, which maybe Stanley was getting ahead of the whole Apple Vision Pro problem. Yeah. I can't drink out of this with Apple Vision Pro on my face because the lip of this hits the Apple Vision Pro, and I can't tilt it back far enough to drink. I don't experience that just watching a movie on my TV. Granular notifications.
Does Nate know that you're not using the Stanley anymore?
I know. I should tell him. I don't know if he knows.
He just found out.
That's true. He just found out. Nate, I'm not using the Stanley anymore. My wife still is because she likes the straw.
Okay.
I might have to go back. I might have to get another Stanley because I can't drink out of this thing in Apple Vision Pro. we need more granular notification control. Like, I don't really want to deal with notifications on Apple Vision Pro because it's annoying, and like most notifications means I have to deal with something else, and it's probably not. I'm not doing that. So we need better notification control. And also, there's just so many weird things, and I'll just mention one. If you want to add a mail account to Apple Vision Pro for your email, just take a wild guess, Jason. Do you know where you would go in the Settings app to add a mail account?
I mean, I don't actually know where to do it anymore on a Mac, to be honest with you. Used to be like an accounts tab, I thought, but now there isn't. You just have to go into Mail to do it, which is weird because if I want to add a calendar app, it's weird to me that I have to go to the Mail app to do it. So I don't know. I mean, it's actually written under documents, so but I wouldn't have known that.
Right. So on the iPad and iPhone, you have to go to Settings, Mail, and in there's accounts, which is weird, like you said, because you might add an account just for notes, just for calendar, just for contacts, or whatever. In Apple Vision Pro, there is no mail settings in the Settings app. You have to go to People. You go to the People settings menu, and under People is where you can add accounts, which seems very strange. I don't understand why.
I don't understand.
And I will also, I spent a lot of time setting up Fantastical and a couple mail accounts. Of all the Apple devices, it is most tedious on Apple Vision Pro.
Oh, yeah, because you have to authorize all of them. Oh, yeah.
You have to authorize all of them. You know, iCloud Password did okay job autofilling, but if it didn't, and for some reason it just didn't take it, typing in one of my very long secure passwords that were auto-generated, it's very tedious. It's very tedious.
So it almost feels like there should be a setup app on either the Mac or the iPad for a Vision Pro. Like you can just log into this app and just put all your stuff, and we will just push it over. Just
like the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch has an app.
Yeah.
On iPhone?
There is precedent for this. Do the Apple Watch for the Vision Pro. Yeah, absolutely.
Honestly, that would solve, because you could you can manage your notifications on Apple Watch, or at least choose what apps send you notification from the Watch app on iPhone. That is what Apple.
I'm emailing someone as soon as we're done talking. I'm not kidding.
A companion app would solve so much of this. Weirdness.
And make it not required. Like it could just be the option, right? Because there may be some people who only have a Vision Pro. Yes, you have to be able to set these things up. But for people who have, other Apple devices, which seems like a pretty large overlap with people who are spending $4,000 on a Vision Pro headset, let them do this. So
exactly. Okay, there's so much big news, and we won't take forever on it, but we do need to cover it. But before we do, I want to thank our sponsor for today. You might have heard of them in a past episode, but HelloThere greeting cards. They have sponsored us once again. This is a super fun app where, you get greeting cards around the holidays, for your birthday. Some of them might be sentimental, might be things from very close relatives, friends, family members, and you don't want to throw them out. But then also, you put them in a drawer and then they just pile up. They're right there taking up the space that your socks need to be in. Well, this is the answer. The HelloThere greeting card app lets you scan all those greeting cards into your iPhone. You can use your iPad, and then they're just saved forever. It syncs to iCloud, and you have all your greeting cards right there. Then you can browse them in the future. You're probably more likely to look at those greeting cards you got for past occasions here in the app than you are your sock drawer or wherever you might be keeping your greeting cards. I've been using it. It's super fun. Try out HelloThere. So you scan cards in from any occasion. And there's even audio recordings for musical cards. If someone gives you those cards where you open it up and it plays The Entertainer or whatever, you can record that. And then this way you know what the card sounded like as well. It also uses live text, so you can copy and paste text from it. There's shortcuts, actions, widgets, and of course syncs via iCloud. And if you want to send an e-card, you can do that from the HelloThere app as well. Don't use any of those weird online services that, listen, they're probably going to spam you with emails after you create an account. Don't do that. Just send those e-cards from the HelloThere app, and it's a great way to do it. So here's what you do. Primary Tech listeners, you can use the offer code for 1 free year, an entire year of HelloThere Plus, which unlocks all the features like iCloud Sync, unlimited entries, app customizations, and lots more. So go use the promo code HelloPrimaryTech, all one word, and you can get that free 1 year of HelloThere Plus. We'll put that information in the show notes so you can just use the promo code there. HelloThere, a great solution for scanning your cards, and we'll put a link to the app directly in the show notes as well. So our thanks to HelloThere for sponsoring this episode.
Are we going to do a 180, Jason? We're going to go from, we just talked about Apple for an hour. Let us talk about the Google changes. Google had a bunch of news just this morning. So you're like breaking news here. And you had a great article on Inc.com. So if you would, can you walk us through? What did Google announce?
Well, okay. Some people may have heard that Google had this thing called Bard. And it was kind of a dumb name. I think there was supposed to be a Shakespeare reference there. But if you've used Google Bard, you know that there was like no poetry involved. Like it seemed like a pretty ambitious thing to call an AI chatbot that most people weren't using intentionally, I guess is the way I'm going to... Like,
I
most
didn't know it was a Shakespeare reference until your article. I had no
Bard?
idea.
Like, I assume that's got to be what it is. Like, why else would you call it Bard? Isn't that a Shakespeare reference?
What is that then?
He was called, like, the Bard. Like, that was a Shakespeare... Like, oh, man, now I have to look this stuff up. Why was Shakespeare called...
I'll look it up. You tell me the news.
Right.
I'll look it up.
Look it up for me. And so they changed the name, because otherwise I have to go back and edit my article. So, anyway... I think that Google recognized that it was sort of a not great name. And so they're changing the name to Gemini. But the reason they're changing it to Gemini is the name of Google's large language model, right? They have three different versions. They announced all this like in December that Bard was powered by Gemini. There's Gemini Nano, Gemini Pro, and Gemini Ultra. The thesis of my article is naming things is hard because they picked a bad name for the first one and then they changed it to a good name, but it is actually still confusing because there are three different models. But in the past, if you were using Bard as the chatbot, you were using Gemini Pro. But now you can use a Gemini Advanced experience, which uses Gemini Ultra, which is their largest and most powerful language model, which up till now, unless I'm wrong about this, consumers were not able to use it. And they are rolling that out as a part of their Google One subscription. So there's now a new Google One subscription tier called AI Premium that, in addition to whatever else Google One comes with, which I don't actually know what it comes with. I was just looking at it as we were doing this because you can subscribe to it, and it includes like their Google storage and some advanced editing features in Google Photos and that kind of stuff. It's funny that I don't actually know because I am subscribed to it, and I just didn't know.
I'm also subscribed to it. I'm subscribed.
I think I subscribed to it because I get extra photos storage, and I use Google Photos as a backup for my photos. So and I have Google Fi as cellular service, but. You then will get, if you subscribe to the advanced tier, which they're making free for 2 months to try it out, you can then they've rolled out a new Google Gemini app for Android, and they are incorporating Gemini into the iPhone Google app. So you can actually use that. So think of this. Most people heard all of that, and they're like, I don't even know. What is any of the things you just said? Okay, most people are familiar with ChatGPT, which is a chat bot experience powered by GPT 3.5 or 4, right? Those are the language models. And if you're using Microsoft's products, they introduced a thing called Copilot, which is the experience of having an AI chatbot help you in PowerPoint or Word. On Google's side, all of those things are just called Gemini, right? The language model is Gemini, the experience is Gemini, and the tools that you can use in Workspace or Gmail, it's all just called Gemini. So that makes that part of it, I think, easier. Gemini is the name going forward. So it isn't just a name change. They are rolling out an app. And a new part of the Google app on iOS. It is interesting to me that Android is getting an app and iOS is not getting a new app. I don't know if they just didn't think it would sail through, like if they tried to roll out this. But there is a ChatGPT app on iOS, so maybe they just couldn't get it approved. I don't really know the details there. There was a briefing yesterday, and people asked that question, but it didn't get asked. It didn't get answered. So I don't know what the deal is. Well, they didn't have enough time. Like they didn't. There was like too many questions, and they did not allocate enough time for this. So that's, I think, the news. They're changing the name, but it is more than just a name change. I don't know if this means more people will use Google's. Most people's experience with Google's chat assistant is if you type in a search and you get the search generative experience, right, where it sort of summarizes an answer at the top of the search results. The other thing is, if you opt into using this, if you're paying for that subscription and you use the Gemini Advanced, that will replace Google Assistant on your Android device. And there are some cool things they showed, like you can use Gemini over your display. So what that means is, like, if you took a photo of something and you were looking at the photo on your phone and you invoked Gemini, you could just say, what is this? And if it's a plant, it'll just answer it for you. Or if it's like a location, it will tell you what the name of the building is or whatever. So it's kind of like that circle to search kind of thing. Only you don't have to circle. You just say, hey, Gemini, look at my screen and tell me what's going on.
That's interesting. So. I'm curious. Federico Vitici, someone send him this clip on social media so he can do it. Apparently, I'm just looking it up now. There is an API key for Gemini. And I would love to be able to try this in shortcuts because SGPT, which is a shortcut that uses the ChatGPT API, I use that all the time. On my mobile devices, I like using the ChatGPT action in shortcuts where if you have the app installed on your iPhone or iPad, you can just use the ChatGPT action. But it's super buggy. Like most often, the shortcut will stop and it'll say, "We don't know what model to use," and it's like it's right there. I just tapped it, or it'll say the helper app stopped responding, and it's super annoying. So if Google's is better or good, I've not used it. Like I do use ChatGPT almost every day for like several things, like my videos. I transcribe my videos. I put that transcription through ChatGPT, and I ask it for a title, description, and tags. And I might massage it a little bit, but that's just something I do pretty much every day. And so I might try Google Gemini to see how well it does as opposed to ChatGPT, but I really need that shortcuts access because that's how I do it mainly. Because I don't want to open a bespoke window just to interact with the chat thing. I want to be able to select text on my Mac, send it, and then it just does its thing. So if Vitici is listening, please build a shortcut with the Google Gemini API. I'll try to figure it out myself. Or Matthew Casanelli, if you're listening, you could do it too. I believe in you. We'll see. Maybe we could do it.
Well, and cool. I definitely just subscribed to Google One AI Premium because it's free for 2 months. So
there you go.
I will hopefully be able to, because here's the thing. I wrote about this morning and published the story based on the information, but like this wasn't. I couldn't actually do anything with it. So now I'm going to actually get to try it. So
very good. Okay, so other huge news, and this just boggles my mind. I saw it from you posted it first. So Disney, one of Apple's biggest partners, Bob Iger was literally on stage at WWDC for the Apple Vision Pro launch and the announcement saying how Disney Plus is going to be there on day one, creating immersive experiences like Disney and Apple, very close relationship. Disney is investing $1.5 billion with a B dollars into Epic Games, who makes Fortnite and Rocket League, one of Apple's bitter rivals. So one of Apple's closest partners is investing $1.5 billion into one of Apple's biggest rivals. And this just made my head spin because does this mean, oh, nice pop-up, CNBC. Does this mean one day, if you're watching, you saw the pop-up. Does this mean one day, Apple is somehow going to work with Disney and Epic Games to get those Epic Games back on the platform? I mean, huge court case that took such a long time about that. But as this article says, Disney has lots of their IP in Fortnite. One of my kids plays Fortnite a lot, and you can get Spider-Man stuff. You can see Marvel characters. There's Star Wars characters and skins. A bunch of Disney IP is already in Fortnite. So, they've already been working together on different deals. And now to invest $1.5 billion directly into Epic Games, this just seems like a wild partnership. And I am so curious the ramifications with Apple. But what do you think about this?
So this was something that they announced on their earnings call. And I pay attention to these things. And I thought this is really really weird, and I don't think that companies like Disney and Apple make decisions just because they're friends. Although they do make some decisions, but they don't exclude other decisions just because they're friends. But Bob Iger was on Disney's board for 8 years, and he finally stepped off the board because of Disney Plus, and Apple had Apple TV Plus, and it was a conflict. This wasn't like when Eric Schmidt left Apple's board because they decided to make Android and Steve Jobs vowed to go thermonuclear or whatever the whole thing was. That was a little bit of a different kind of a situation. This was not a I don't, at least from the understanding that I have, a super contentious thing when he left. It was just like, oh, you're going to do a streaming service. We're going to do a streaming service. I really can't serve on your board because that would be a conflict of interest. And so he stepped off the board, and then he was also going to like retire from Disney. Anyway, he thought he was going to retire for the first time. But I think this is a little bit different because like my reaction to this was Disney, which is Apple's best media bud, just invested, which means they bought essentially stake in Epic Games, which is in no way Apple's anything friend, like, right? Like, and as far as getting, I don't think this is a play by Epic to get Fortnite back on the iPhone, because I think they knew that they were, when they did what they did, which was, you know, the hot fix to enable the payments in the app, that they were going to get booted, and they were prepared for that to be a permanent thing. I think they thought they were hoping that they would win, but the court case was not about getting Fortnite back on the iPhone. The court case was about having their own store and that kind of thing. I don't know for sure if Apple has permanently excluded Fortnite, but like they revoked their developer certificate for Fortnite, right? Like that's, and then they tried to do it for Epic for what is their Unreal Engine, yeah. And then that turned out that they were not able to. They had to let them do that because it was unrelated. But so I don't know if this is like, hey, we'll become partners and maybe we'll get Fortnite back. I don't know. I think this is purely about Disney seeing an opportunity to put its IP in more places, that's what Disney does. They just put it everywhere, and but it is one of those things you're like, wait, you just announced all of this Vision Pro stuff, and now you're announcing this. The two are not mutually exclusive, but they certainly are very stark contrast.
I would love to imagine Tim Cook sitting in his very curated office that we see in the Pictures of Vanity Fair article, and seeing this headline scroll across the screen and just doing a spit take, just like spitting the sandwich out of his mouth, saying, what? And then just furiously calling Bob Iger like, what are you doing? Oh, why? But I'm sure, I mean, they probably
Do you think Bob gave him a heads up? I think he probably did. Don't you think?
I think he probably did. I mean, the only other CEO that was on stage for the Vision Pro announcement was Bob Iger. Like one other person that was not an Apple person, as far as I remember.
There was the game guy. Who was the one guy? Because there was the game that they were talking about bringing to the Mac.
I thought they were talking about that during the Mac segment.
So you're just saying during the Vision Pro segment.
During the Vision Pro
you're right.
segment.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
So
I do want to say one thing. This is not a pick on you. I have heard in the last, I don't know, let's say 3 weeks, a lot of people talking about how Bob Iger was not the only person, but how they brought him out on. They did not bring him out on stage. We sat there and watched a video, and he was on the video. Bob Iger was not at WWDC. He did not walk on a stage. He stood somewhere in a studio, and they recorded. I know the effect is the same. He was not there in person.
It was
yeah, but what I mean is Bob Iger was not on stage in person. He was just in the video. He was in the keynote, yes. But everyone keeps talking about how Bob Iger was on stage at WWDC. Okay, I'm like, no, he wasn't.
I just want everybody to know. I just pulled this up in seconds just for you all. I want you to watch this. So here's Tim Cook literally on the same stage that Bob Iger is about to walk out on, and they could have shaken hands. I guess technically they really could have done some like post-production, like Tim Cook left for the day and then 3 hours later Bob Iger walked on stage and they spliced it together. But it really looks like Tim Cook and Bob Iger were on the stage at the same time. And so
but I just meant that this piece was a video that was then showed at WWDC. They're in the Steve Jobs Theater. They're not at WWDC.
Right.
Like, that's all I was trying to say. That's
right.
He did literally walk onto a stage. You're right. I was wrong about that part. But.
And on the stage that Tim Cook was also on. Like they shared the stage for a few moments.
They said hi in the green room. You're probably right. Yes.
And you know who was not on that stage? Tim Sweeney. Tim Sweeney was not on that stage.
They would not. It's hard enough for us to get into the keynote. There's no way Tim Sweeney is going to get past those. Nope, not happening.
Which he wasn't. There was a past keynote where Tim Sweeney was on stage for.
I think you're right. I think that's true.
It was like years ago, like way before, many years ago. Yep. I'm going to put the WWDC live stream link in the show notes just so everyone can watch that moment.
Yep. So he was on a stage, but he did not come out in person at WWDC. That's the only part I wanted to clarify.
Okay. Well, Jason was there in person, to be clear.
Yeah, and for that matter, nobody came out in person except for Tim Cook and Craig at the very beginning just to say hi, and then they rolled a video. Right. Like, that's it. They just rolled a video.
Wait, so Tim Cook didn't come out on stage?
No,
at
Tim Cook
WWDC?
and Craig did to say hi.
Oh, and Craig. Okay.
But
good.
none of the keynote is live, is what I'm trying to say. I don't know why I keep rehashing this. The number of people I've heard say, like, Bob Iger, he was there. He was at the, he was on stage in the keynote at WWDC. I'm like, they recorded it 4 months before. I don't even know. It doesn't matter.
If you watch it in immersive video on Apple Vision Pro, it's like he's there.
He and Alicia Keys are just right there breathing on you in Apple Vision Pro, spatial computing.
Exactly. All right. Last couple pieces of news. So a huge sports conglomerate is now coming together where Max, HBO Max, Hulu, and Disney Plus subscribers will have the option. Oh, and Fox News is also joining this. So
not Fox
it's
News,
ESPN,
Fox Sports.
Fox Sports, excuse me.
Yes.
So ESPN, which is owned by Disney, Fox Sports, Warner Brothers Discovery, which is so all these names are so confusing.
Well, Warner Brothers Discovery is like TNT. That's like the basketball, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Okay. They are all combining forces. Look, here's Bob Iger again. They're going to make a massive...
He's on stage.
Bob Iger is on stage.
He's on stage at the Wall Street Journal at this podcast.
No. Primary Primary Episode 7, Bob Iger on stage.
Yeah. Twice.
So they are creating... Yeah. Just so mad right now. Listen, precision in words is good. I'm for it. I'm here for it. No, it's good. They're creating a massive conglomerate. They're combining forces like Captain Planet to make this massive sports streaming package that subscribers will have the option to add to their package. This is not something that's going to be like included if you're a Max subscriber or a Disney Plus subscriber. But they're joining forces because sports, like naming things is hard, as Jason said. Sports streaming is very hard because everybody wants the money. There's a lot of money when it comes to sports streaming. And so it looks like these three companies are coming together to create this package that will include probably more sports than any one package. Because I know right now, I'm not a huge sports guy, but I know like you would have to subscribe to like NBA TV and MLB TV, and you have to every sport is individual. And so this might be some kind of play to create, bring some of them together. Notably absent is Apple TV Plus, who has like Friday Night Baseball and MLS, but maybe that's not enough to.
I don't think they're notably absent. I think they just didn't. No one called them to talk about this. But what is notably absent is NBC, which has the Olympics and also Sunday Night Football. Paramount is not a part of this, which means CBS, which also has football, right? Also has March Madness. So like, before we get too excited about just what this is going to include. We don't watch the NBA at our house, but we do watch college basketball because we're big fans of Michigan State, which has at times had a pretty good basketball team. And the number of times recently where we have to log on to Peacock to watch this game, or we have to go to Paramount. Like, it's a game. It should just be on the television. We have YouTube TV, which is basically cable at this point. Just let me watch the show. There was even like NFL games that were on Peacock, right? Like that was a big thing. And it's just, it is completely bananas to me. But obviously, ESPN is the big name here, and this thing is going to cost $50 a month. Like, it's going to be $50 a month to get these sports, and you're still not going to get everything.
I watch no sports. I'm going to watch the Super Bowl this weekend. I have no idea where I'm going to watch it. Hopefully, it's streaming somewhere. I'm sure it's streaming somewhere, so I'll find it and do it. But I don't watch sports. But
are you going to watch it in Vision Pro?
There's going to be a bunch of people over the house. What am I going to do? Be sitting on the sofa with the Apple Vision Pro just as everybody else watching the TV?
Come on, dude. Yeah. Exactly. That's exactly what... You don't actually have to have it open in an app. Just look through the pass-through video at your television with the Vision Pro on. Think about all the stats you could have up. You could watch a live commentary of all the people talking about the ads.
I'm doing this on my face to act like I have Apple Vision Pro. I literally have the Apple Vision Pro right here. Like I could literally...
I don't understand.
I don't know what's happening. No, I'm not going to be... Maybe I'll see. I'm curious.
You shouldn't. You should not.
No, I'm not going to. I'm sure Apple's going to have an ad for Apple Vision Pro during the Super Bowl. I'm sure that's going to happen.
They have an Apple Music ad. Because have you seen... I put a link to it. Did you see the Apple Music preview? Because Usher is the halftime show, and there's a Tim Cook. Yes. Tim Cook is in a pre-ad for the Super Bowl, and it's... Yeah. Well, I'm interested to see what happens here. Anyway,
it is weird. I'm going to pull it up now. I watched the ad. Even after watching it, I still don't know what's happening.
Well, the thesis here is Usher is the halftime show, and it's sponsored by Apple Music. And in the preview of the ad, Usher has gone missing, and Tim Cook is visibly distressed.
He's wearing an Usher shirt, which is hilarious.
Yes, Tim Cook is a good sport. He is not a fantastic actor, which we learned in the Octavia Spencer Mother Nature ad that they showed at, was it the iPhone? I think it was at the iPhone keynote. You will find him. That's my favorite. He just texts them. It must be nice to be the CEO of what is now the second largest company in the world, to be able to just, text Ludacris and be like, you will find him. Do this.
I just love that the shot of Tim Cook in the Usher T-shirt.
It is good.
Sitting at his table.
He is a good sport.
He's a good sport.
He really is.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Would you want to be the person who had to pitch this to him? I think about that. Like, how scared would you to be like, Tim, we have an idea. It involves you, Ludacris, and an Usher shirt.
I want to know if it was the same person who did the Mother Nature ad. Because now they could just be like, listen, I got another wild idea. Here's what we're going to do.
This one's better. I promise this is better.
Honestly, though, with like Tim Cook being the numbers operations guy, like COO for such a long time, when it comes to marketing, he's probably just like, yeah, I trust you guys to do it.
Yeah,
I don't
just
know.
whatever. Tell me, just bring me.
Whatever.
Maybe they didn't tell him about the Usher T-shirt until he went into wardrobe, and they're like, "This is what we want you to wear. You've already signed
We need
off
you to wear
on
this.
it." Okay,
Put this
didn't mean
on.
to digress quite that far on just an ad, but
No, that's funny. All right, well, we didn't talk about it. The Apple earnings happened the afternoon after we published the last episode, and it's the last thing we'll talk about before we get to some personal tech, which is mouse or trackpad. That's the question of the week. And honestly, we'd love to hear some questions. If you have a personal tech question, this would be a fun segment. We'll do a question of the week.
Yeah,
we'd love to hear from
that'd be
you.
great.
Listeners and viewers, you can comment on the YouTube video or in your 5-star review in Apple Podcasts. Just put your personal tech, what's your question? Today we're doing mouse or trackpad.
Don't put what's your question, but just put your question.
Yeah.
Don't
No,
put what's
actually
your
put the
question.
question.
Yeah, just put the
No,
question.
yeah,
Just
don't-
want to be clear. We got to be clear for the people so they know what
Listen,
they're
if
supposed
it's
to
a
do.
5-star review, put whatever you want.
That's
You could
true.
say, I don't know what to write.
The
Submit.
other guy should stop talking. That's it. But 5
No one has
stars,
said that.
it's fine.
No one has said that. You can email theotherguy@primarytech.fm.
Except Steven. Steven says it in his head every time we have this show. The other guy should stop talking.
No, not at all, not at all. Because I was going to have you talk about Apple earnings because I saw it at a glance, and the biggest thing that stuck out to me was that iPad numbers tanked. But I'm like, they didn't make any new iPads in
Right.
2023. That's why. Duh.
This is what happens if you don't introduce any new products in this category. People don't buy
right.
them. Right?
That's what
I
happens.
mean, they had the things of note. The revenue was up, which was the first time that was the case for comparable quarters in a while. Like, so they did fine. Their services revenue set a record, and they made a point of mentioning that there's 2.2 billion active devices, which goes hand in hand with the services, because essentially what they're trying to say is, yes, iPhone growth has slowed, but look at all the people we can now sell Apple TV Plus. And that's actually not what they're saying. What they're really saying is, look at all the people who, whenever they push a button in their iPhone, we collect 30%. Right? So there's all these devices that are installed, and we're able to sell them services, and they download apps, and when they do, they subscribe to stuff. We get money. They did set a record though for earnings per share, which I understand is one of those things that no one thinks about or cares about. And Steven has actually stopped listening to me right now, but there is a reason it's important, because what they're saying, that the reason that has happened is because they spent a bunch of money buying back stock, which means there's less stock out there, which means that your stock is more valuable if you own stock, right? So the earnings, you take the same amount of profit and you divide it among a smaller number of shares, and boom, you set a record. It's up 16%, which looks really good, because if you own that stock, again, your stock becomes more valuable. It's just, I think it's interesting because the stuff that most people care about is like, there's a new Vision Pro and somebody wore it on the subway and somebody else wore it for 3 days. That's not the thing that the people who buy stock, like, these people are like talking about stuff at a totally different level. And it just makes you realize, like, there's a reason they focus on the things that they do. You're going to start getting notifications to sign up for Apple Care in your Vision Pro any minute, because you already get them in your iPhone, and there's just going to be little notifications. Wouldn't you like a free trial of Apple Music to go with the 2 subscriptions you already have?
I hope not. I hope not.
So Apple's doing fine. Like, they're doing fine. They're not the largest company in the world because Microsoft surpassed them, but they're doing fine.
They're doing fine. This is the 6 colors earnings charts they do every time there's an earnings call. Look at that iPad revenue. It's just map.
Yeah, and it's in what you're comparing is that super tall one to the last. The point is like that the revenue they did like, but again, they did not make a new iPad at all this entire
At all.
for all of 2023.
Any
Well,
iPad.
maybe they made one, but they did not sell it to us. So people didn't buy. Honestly, the fact that it was only down that much is probably a good sign for the iPad, that they didn't even offer a new model, and yet people still bought them.
Sure,
Wearables were down too, but I think the same thing is true. Nobody was buying the Series 9 and the Ultra 2 because they were basically the same as the models that came before. So you had people who were upgrading. But they did say one interesting thing, Stephen, that the iPhone 15 set a record for upgrades. So more people were upgrading from like the 13 and 14 than did previously. So there you go.
Okay.
I don't know what any of that means, but earnings per share was up. So
well, there you go. Thank you for interpreting. Okay, we're gonna have a bonus episode where I want to talk about ordering food in an app. Which
are you hungry?
No.
We're gonna do a bonus episode. A couple weeks ago, we did on the live part of the show. None of it's live, but we ordered Vision Pros and we watched Steven scan his face. And today on the bonus content, we're gonna watch him order food.
That's right. No, that's the bonus episode.
I'm really selling it.
That's right. For the final segment of the main show, mouse or trackpad?
Okay.
Which do you use?
Gosh, that's a very open-ended question. No, it's not. It's actually a multiple choice question, but there's so many variables involved. Right now, mostly I use a mouse if I'm sitting at my desk and I have the commands station set up here. On my laptop, obviously, if I'm just using the laptop, I just use the trackpad. I do have the Magic Trackpad sitting here, and I only really use it, when my mouse battery dies and I'm not patient enough to recharge it, so I'll use the trackpad then.
Yes.
But also, there are times when it's useful, like if I am editing a photo and I just want to, pinch to zoom, or it's actually not pinch, it's the opposite of a pinch, whatever you call that, to zoom into things. Or, an inverse.
It's a pinch out.
It's an anti-pinch. I don't know. Anyway.
Anti-pinch.
But I'm mostly a mouse person if I'm sitting at the desk, but I do have a trackpad sitting right here. And it's nice because actually the other thing I use it for is I use the anti-pinch when I'm reading articles and I can't see very well, and I'll just it makes the font bigger if I just do that on a browser. So yeah,
I would love for anti-pinch to become the term after however many years of the
term?
iPhone.
Somebody email the other guy at primarytech.fm and tell me what is the actual term for when you zoom into something, because people always say pinch to zoom, but you're not pinching.
People say pinch out, which I feel like is an oxymoron. Like
pinch out to zoom.
Pinch is literally
yeah.
So the mouse you use at your battle station, though, is it the Magic Mouse?
No, I use the MX Master 3 for Mac.
Okay, see, that was really what I was trying to get at. I'm a Magic Mouse user right here in black. I forget why. I don't know where I got it that it was black, but I have the Magic Mouse. I tried the Magic Trackpad for a long time. I felt like I was getting repetitive strain injury because for some reason I would hover my hand over the trackpad at all times as always in the ready. And when it's hovering there, I don't know if I was just stressed maybe at the time when I was trying it, but it just felt like my hand was not doing well. And so I switched to the Magic Mouse because I like the scrolling in any direction. And when I'm in Final Cut, you can do this with the trackpad, but I'd like the Magic Mouse just fluid scrolling left, right, up, and down. And I know I actually have an MX Master 3, that exact mouse you just showed on screen, and it has the two scroll wheels. You can do the horizontal scroll and the vertical scroll, but it always felt like a weird, I don't know, I couldn't get my motor skill to really do that a lot. And the horizontal scroll with the thumb, I just wasn't crazy about it. So I'm actually, I know it's a very unpopular mouse, but I am a Magic Mouse user. I have to put it into turtle mode to charge it periodically. I don't have a Magic Trackpad around here as a backup, so there have been times where I'm just well, I guess it's time to go to lunch because I can't do anything on my Mac while this thing is charging. But yeah, I'm a Magic Mouse user. I like it.
So I do. I mean, I have Magic Mice in both colors sitting here.
That's what you're rummaging for.
I have an old Logitech travel mouse that even has the convenient little. I
USB.
thought this one.
The dongle?
Is this a USB dongle one? This might be a Bluetooth one, but. No, I thought this was the one that. Oh yeah, you take the bottom off somehow, and there's a little thing inside there that you plug in. Oh wait, there it is. Oh yeah, there's a little tiny.
The RF thing.
Yeah, so you can plug it, but it's USB A, and I don't have a USB A port, so that's not helpful.
Nice.
I have a Microsoft mouse too that I don't know why I have some Icebreakers mints. I also have this Targus laser pointer. And some post-it notes. So I have
many
lots
pointing
of
devices.
So many control inputs here. I just wanted you to know I do like the Magic Mouse a lot, and then I realized I had a lot of mice in my drawer. This is the one that I keep in my little gear bag that goes with me. So like if I'm traveling, I do not take that. Could you imagine if I just roll up on the airplane and I get my Logitech Magic Mouse? And but I do use this occasionally when I'm traveling because I love the swipe controls on this thing. I don't know why I started using it, but the Logitech one, but I do prefer it if I'm using a mouse, and I don't use the swipey things, whatever you want to call
horizontal
that.
Scroll thing.
Yeah, I don't use that type of thing that often on here that it has become an issue for me. I just reach over to the trackpad. So anyway, sorry for that little digression. But
No, it's good. Well, I know in
I gotta
MKBHD
put all
and
this stuff away.
some people have like the dual setup. You have like the Magic Mouse or a mouse on the right and a Magic Trackpad on the left.
No, I don't understand that. Like people are like, "Oh yeah, I have my mouse," and I'm just imagining them sitting here like ready for anything. Like, what are you doing? What kind of a life do you
Vision
live
Pro, mouse, trackpad,
where you have to have your hands on a trackpad and a mouse at the same time? The trackpad is usually underneath some napkins that have coffee stains on them and maybe some keys, and I just have to like move everything out of the way to get to it. So you think I'm joking, but I'm definitely not joking.
No, I'm sure. But the other thing about the Magic Trackpad is I do like the pinch in and out in Final Cut specifically. So if I can zoom in on the timeline, I can also do Command Plus on the keyboard, but it's a little faster to be able to just like pinch and zoom on the trackpad for Final Cut. But I've figured out how to do the Command.
You know what
Plus
I just realized I do all the time on the trackpad? All the time is I just reach up there and I flick to the corner so that I can get mission control or exposite or whatever it's called now. Like I'll just reach up there and so instead of moving my mouse from like one screen to the other, I just do it on the trackpad and it's just like boom, there we go.
That is good. I use Spaces a lot. Like I have multiple desktops and I'll use that a lot, but I don't typically like go into the mission control view. I typically just like you can double tap with two fingers on a Magic Mouse and it does the expose, and then I put my mouse up at the top, create a new desktop, and do whatever. But that's that
sounds like a personal tech topic for another show.
We'll talk about we should talk about window management. But anyway, we're gonna get to a bonus topic real quick, talking about apps and ordering food ahead. But again, you could support the show by giving us a 5-star rating and review. Let us know your personal tech topics you'd like to hear on the show, or just let us know what your favorite note app is. You can put whatever you want in the review, but do the 5 stars and write your review. Or if you'd like to get an ad-free version of the show and listen to all the bonus episodes, you get access to the entire back catalog of bonus episodes as well. You can support the show directly in Apple Podcasts or on Memberful by going to primarytech.fm. Thank you all so much for your support and listening and watching on YouTube. Subscribe to that channel as well. And thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you in the bonus episode.